Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia. Listen up. WynnBET is now live in all these states, and the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas has finally landed in online sports betting and casino play. From boosted parlays to live in-game offs on every major sport, WynnBET gives you the tools to win. Sign up today for your risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning.
You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dumler, Broncos country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Get on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
Welcome in, guys. It is Tuesday night. It is 6:03 Mountain Time, the day after Valentine's. So I guess Happy Singles Awareness Day or whatever they call it as well, just for the heck of it.
Happy 50% off all candy day.
There you go. I saw a funny tweet today where it's like, my husband proposed to me February 16th, and then we got married February 16th on the same day. And it's like, always like, oh, that's because, that's when it was. It's a special day. No, it's about the half-off flowers and candy. Yeah, I'm on to you, you son of a gun. He's not working hard. He's working smart, and I appreciate it. But I appreciate you, Carl. How you doing? Good to see you.
I'm good, man. It's I mostly spent the day doing a lot of cleaning, just trying to catch up on life, and we just had our final Christmas party last weekend for our family. Yeah, I know. So I just took down our Christmas tree today. That's how crazy our life has been. Just getting home and getting everything done. So it was kind of, I guess, bittersweet to get all that taken care of and just get a little bit caught up, and just now getting to come in here, kind of unwind from all of that. It's a good feeling.
And I mean, my God, we have entered our time. The NFL season is officially over. The Super Bowl has concluded, and it is the off season. It is everybody's favorite armchair season. And by God, I mean, we named the show Building the Broncos, for God's sake. I mean, we're in full fledged. This is a metamorphosis podcast because we have entered, it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius. I mean, we're really there. So let's get to it. Dylan Von Ark's in the house. Sup, Broncos country. Make sure you guys hit the like button on the way in and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for the shout out, Dylan. You're always greatly appreciated helping us out on here. Jay Kozad, hope you're doing well, Jay. I think I said this last year at this time, the draft would be a lot more exciting and more clear if we had a quarterback. I've said it 100 times. I'm with you, Jay. I've said it on Twitter. Man, it'd be really fun to be talking about the validity of drafting an edge rusher versus a tackle in the first round. But everything is like, hey, you don't have a quarterback, so it doesn't even matter until you get the quarterback. It still matters to an extent, But it's I think it was somebody put out, one of the Denver sites today put out a post that said, is Denver closer to rebuilding or contending? And that's like, that's like saying to me, I'm $1 billion off from being a billionaire, because until you have that quarterback, you're not contending, period. End of story. Good luck. Good luck next year. But I agree with you, Jay. We're still going to get into the quarterbacks, but you still want to build a good team so you can take advantage of the roster when you finally do get that good quarterback. You don't want to waste 2 or 3 years trying to build up around that quarterback. When you get that guy in, go time.
Listen up, Broncos country. TickPick should be your first choice to buy football tickets because they save fans money by never charging any service fees ever. TickPick is the exclusive ticketing partner for the Huddle Up podcast and the Blue Wire Network.
Denver Broncos football is finally back, and there's no need to exhaust yourself searching all over the internet to find Broncos tickets anymore, because TickPick, that's TickPick, is the original no-fee ticket site and the only one you'll ever need as your go-to for all NFL tickets. TickPick got rid of all those awful service fees that the other ticket sites charge, which lets them guarantee the best prices on all of their NFL tickets. Don't believe it? If you can find better prices for the same seats on another ticket site, TickPick will give you 110% of the difference in the purchase price.
That's right, guys. When we were searching for tickets for the MHH meet and greet for Week 3 at home, Broncos versus Jets, TickPick had us locked down. So visit tickpick.com/huddle today and use the promo code HUDDLE to save $10 on your first order of Broncos tickets.
Right. You can't go into the draft and use all 9 picks on a quarterback. Could you? Not
just
quite.
It hasn't been tried.
It's true. I mean, things are going a little crazy with how they're building their coaching staff. So why not do a little different in the draft? But no, it's like you said, you always have the quarterback at point A and say, this has to be first. but doesn't mean you ignore everything else. You're going to always build the rest of the team up as much as you can. And, this past draft, the Broncos did a great job of building up around hopefully the quarterback position. So if somebody comes in, they can come into a very strong team here. And we got CC coming in saying, sounds like Denver will look to heavily invest in edge and right tackle in the draft, potentially double dipping like they did at receiver in 2020. I'm absolutely on board if that is truly the case.
I mean, I triple agree with you with the edge rusher position here, because it's a position that is heavily rotated. The edge rushing position, you're going to need multiple guys, and this is a very deep edge class. You're going to get guys that typically go middle of round 2, going probably all the way end of round 3. There's just so many bodies in this class. So I'd be all about double dipping at that position. And what makes it unique for the Broncos is on paper, they are competent, not totally terrible at edge entering next season with Chubb, with Cooper, with Reed. Obviously that's not blowing the doors off anybody, but it's not like laughably terrible, thin at the position. But the Broncos still, every single one of those guys besides Cooper is a free agent after this year. So you need to be looking at the draft thinking, okay, who is starting out of these guys that I'm taking in 2023? Because that is a huge need on the team. Not only for hopefully starting next year, but also starting in 2023. So I'm with you. Double dip. If you can get yourself, Kingsley Enagbare, South Carolina guy, 35-inch arm length, super powerful at pick, 40 for the Broncos? And then round 3, get Boye Mafe. Who knows who's going to be there, right? We still have a long process to go, but Hell yeah. I would be all about that. Get good players, especially at positions of value, and take advantage of the depth of the class. Right tackle, I want to have a little bit more versatility than totally just double dipping at right tackle, right? Like I want somebody who can wear a lot of different hats, but they're definitely looking at right tackle early.
Right. And you like a guy, like I said, that can be versatile where they can play on the offensive line. Maybe you're looking at a guy that you can future move over to that left tackle spot. Not saying get rid of Garrett Bowles by any means. He's still a decent left tackle. I'm just saying prepare for the day that you want to maybe make that position a little bit cheaper where, you're always looking at that. You're always looking to upgrade if you can. If you don't have the top guy at the position, you're looking to figure out how you can upgrade. Even quarterbacks, guys that have teams that have a top 10 quarterback. I look at, did you see the news about Derek Carr today?
About $35 million for $35 million a year for 3 years.
Right. But they're looking at a short-term deal.
Yep.
Because and both sides want it in the sense that we like you. We really do. But that doesn't mean that we are long-term going to commit to you of 10 years like they did with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you're always looking to upgrade as much as you possibly can. And I did a mock draft the other day. Actually, I didn't tell you about this, but I took 3 edge players in a row. It just happened they were just really good players. And I was like, well, it's there. I'm going to take it.
Can I ask which ones?
So I'm trying to remember. Man,
not to put you on the spot here. While you're thinking about it, thank you for the comment, CC. Want to say hi to James Hyatt. Good evening, Broncos country and everyone. I got Travis. Oh, when Travis comments, I have to put on the hat he sent me. There we go. It's black and navy, but I'm already wearing black and navy because, of course, Iowa. Evening, fellas. Sorry I missed the show this morning, Nick. Denver Broncos for life. And it just means that I didn't wear the hat. So, no, we missed you, Travis. Good to have you here tonight. Oh, back here, Travis, again. Any talk about possible free agents that we might sign when the new league year starts? This is my own personal philosophy, but every year you see the list of top pending free agents, and then like 19 of the top 20 are signed. And then there's another 19 that take their place because you have the guys who are cut because of contract situations. So I like to wait until that first wave has been taken care of, whether they be the top guys getting signed before they even hit free agency and the guys who are contract casualties hitting the market before I even really dig into what free agency looks like. I'm more interested in who the Broncos have that they might be wanting to bring back before they hit that free agency mark. Somebody like a Bobby Massey, somebody like a Josie Julie Alexander Johnson to patch up those spots before the draft and free agency. That's just me though.
Yeah. All right. So I was going to give you my guys.
Okay. Let's hear
it. I got Drake Jackson.
Okay. USC.
Yep. Boye Mafe.
Minnesota. Yep.
Yep. And Sanders from Cincinnati.
Myjai Sanders. Okay. I like all 3. I will say, Carl, you drafted 3 finesse guys.
I know.
All 3 of them definitely stand up 9 technique, 7 technique guys. Nobody who's rotating in and confusing anybody for like a 4-eye or a 7 technique. That's
right.
More of the finesse guys. Very talented. I was just curious if you kind of varied styles, if that makes sense.
I thought about that, but like I said, they were just best player available where I'm getting this guy late third round.
Yeah.
It's hard to pass on that, even if, like I said, we want to vary a little bit more of what we could bring to the table.
I like Boye Mafe more than Drake Jackson, personally speaking. Drake
Yeah.
Jackson does a whole lot of arm movement for absolutely no power. Drives me insane. Travis Weber coming in saying, good evening, Nick, Carl, and Broncos country. How I would like to be a fly on the wall during these meetings. Latest CBS Sports mock is Denver taking the cornerback from Cincinnati. There you go, another Cincinnati guy. Ahmed Sauce Gardner. I just know him by Sauce. 6'3", long, maybe better in a cover 3, but really fun player. Makes sense since we'll be becoming somewhat depleted, but I still say edge or right tackle. Round 1 at pick 9. If the best player that you have conviction on is a cornerback, then God bless him, swing away. I don't mind that. I have concerns about Cross after the top 2 edges there. Concerns it's a deep class. Also, I think there's actually a chance this year that the edge rusher that you get at pick 40 could be as good as one you get at 9. After those top 2, it's just a heap of names. So I'm not really to delineate those guys prior to the athletic testing and measurements. But I agree with you. In paper, in an ideal world, if you had exactly the same grades on players, edge and right tackle would come first. But if the cornerback there is better on your board, then you probably take the cornerback.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it is. It's a position you still want to very much value. And like they said, the position's going to get depleted a little bit with a couple guys possibly leaving in free agency. And if you can get a top tier guy to pair with your top tier guy that you got in this last draft, plus Ronald Darby, you feel pretty good about that, especially in the AFC West where there's a lot of wide receivers. Yep. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks. And if you can make them hold on to the ball for a half second more, by golly, maybe you can get that pass rush going for you. So it's the Seattle Seahawks won a Super Bowl with the best secondary, possibly not in history. Well, I don't know. Really, really good secondary. Let's just put it that way. And it helped their pass rush. They had good pass rushers, but it helped them that their back end was doing so well. And so the Broncos maybe could build that way too.
Yeah, thank you, Travis, for the support and the stars. You're a real one. Maybe I have to give you some Devin Lloyd shout-outs coming up here when we're talking about linebacker. Because, I mean, honest to God, I'm scared about taking a linebacker early, but, like, Devin Lloyd is very fun. And in this class, maybe. We had Gary Leeds-Palmer coming in. Thank you, Gary. Always good to see you. Always love talking with you. Jeff Mitchell in the house, too. I don't recognize that name, Jeff. So thank you very much for your support. If you have any questions for us, I'm sure Scott will hit you up and pull you up on the screen. As far as this is a takeaway from the Super Bowl as well, and it's something that we've seen multiple times again. But I think a lot of people look at the roster and they think, okay, where is my biggest weakness? How can I patch over that weakness? I would say even just as viable, if not more viable, is drafting and adding talent to amplify a strength to the point where it's an identity. Now, obviously the Bengals, their offensive line was poor, but what got the Bengals here this year was the bevy of weapons they had that team simply didn't have enough resources on the back end to cover up. The Rams linebackers and defensive backs outside of Jalen Ramsey, who the heck is even back there? They're having Eric Weddle, who hasn't played in 2 years, wearing the green dot. They have nobody's back there, but they have such an overwhelming strength on the defensive line with Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller, that it negates those issues and covers up those issues. So coming back to the cornerback discussion, Broncos probably on paper could use a linebacker more, could use an edge rusher more. But if you think you have a cornerback here to create a bottleneck effect where teams literally, they can't function their offense because you are so strong at that point of attack, then I think it's a very viable strategy.
Yeah, you're right. And like I said, you don't want it to take away from a position in the sense of I'm not going to pass on a guy just because I'm already strong at the position.
Yep.
If we're really good at edge and we want to add another edge rusher, by golly, go ahead and add another edge rusher, because the more guys you can send after that quarterback, that's great. Yep. You can figure out how to patch up the back end if you need to on some different ways with some scheme and things like that. You can make it work. I mean, the Broncos last year still made it work on defense, even though they were on like their 10th cornerback. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't always great, but they still made some of it work because they had a decent pass rush that was getting there, getting home on a few things, and just the scheme itself was making things work that way.
Yep, absolutely. Miguel coming in. Sup, fellas? Do you guys think Bryce Callahan is coming back on a team-friendly deal? I think with Ejiro Evero, the Broncos' new defensive coordinator, who was the Rams defensive back coach previously, coming in and probably implementing the pre-snap too high, match quarters, heavy emphasis defense that Vic Fangio had. I think if there's a greater possibility if you were bringing in a Dan Quinn, toss that one out the window. I'm very curious to see, though, with Ed Donatel going to Minnesota, how many Broncos players who are starters or key contributors are picked up by Minnesota. I know they're in cap issues, so to speak, but Bryce Callahan might make some sense. I mean, Minnesota's had some cornerback issues here. I know they draft them a lot, but they haven't really hit on them, especially in the back end. So if Callahan wants to come back for a 2-year deal where that second year is easy to get out of because of his injury history and his pure slot ability more so than anything, I'd be interested, but I think he'll probably find a better deal elsewhere than I'm probably willing to pay him.
Yeah. We got Travis Tarbox coming in here asking the question, any small school guys like Quinn last year that have been getting a lot of buzz by the league? Nick, you'd know more than I would on this one.
Nobody's really getting huge buzz as far as that low level of a player. I mean, there's some Division II guys that are getting buzz, but nobody like the NAIA Division III level player jumps off me as an obvious player. I think the one who sticks out to me is Malik Willis at Liberty. But after that, I mean, you're even talking the smaller school with Quinn Miners there. So I can't think of any off the top of my head right now. Looking through the list of a big board here, doesn't appear to be that type of year. Obviously the thing that will be big will be the testing at the Senior Bowl. Actually, here's one that sticks out to me. Christian Watson, big wide receiver, North Dakota State. That's obviously non big time football there. Obviously North Dakota State is great, but they don't play big boy football as far as the competition. And Christian Watson was incredible at the Senior Bowl, could be a top 50 pick in this draft. So I guess he's one that is getting a lot of buzz and would be interested. Broncos probably not looking to draft him, so he's kind of off my radar for that sense, but he interests me.
What level would you consider Northern Iowa?
Same level. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, Trevor Penning. That's another one. But I mean, Wisconsin Whitewater is even smaller than those guys. We're talking about even a tier under that. So like Wisconsin Whitewater was playing Augustana College, which is where I went to school, and whipping us, but total just tiny school. Chase Wellner, do you guys consider free agent class weak in any areas? Again, quarterback, I guess. I mean, honestly, Jameis Winston, the more I look at this class is like, what? Maybe just because the options are so pitiful.
Mm-hmm.
You don't typically have good quarterbacks and free agents anyway, so I would say it's weak every year.
Right.
I really want to see what it looks like after the cuts happen. There's going to be so much movement with going on. A lot of these teams that are in the red, they're going to have to move on from some guys. So like Packers probably having to move on from both Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, like that kind of situation where the market is going to shift dramatically after those moves happen. So kind of wait and see on that. But I guess quarterback is one that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you look at the premium positions, those are the ones that typically don't hit the market. You're not going to see many great starting tackles. You're not going to see many great starting cornerbacks. You're not going to see many wide receiver ones. You're not going to see many in their prime edge rushers.
The only time you usually do are the ones that are problem childs that you really probably don't want in your locker room or have major injury history that they've had, maybe a year or two of great play, but the rest of the time they've been banged up. And teams just decide we're not going to risk paying them top dollar. And again, those aren't the players you want to bring in. You're paying A+ money for maybe B production, and even there where like Juwan James, that's a great example.
Yep.
He was a good tackle when he was healthy. Just obviously he could never stay healthy. So, or every other year, I guess he could stay healthy until he came to the Broncos. But James Hyatt saying, hello, Nick and Carl. Thank you, James. Appreciate that. Love the plane. Jeff Noyes saying, by the way, hello, everyone. Hello to you, Jeff.
Yep.
Chase coming in saying, you guys are awesome. Go Broncos. Holden Adams, let's go Broncos. Yes. And
Mile High Mike, I want to get to this one. As long as we don't lose all our draft capital, we should be able to fill everything except our quarterback position. I mean, yes, to an extent. You probably will never have enough capital to have absolutely zero holes because it's not just about the starters. I mean, we saw this last year. How deep did we go down the linebacking position, right? Like Justin Stranad, but Wolf or Curtis Robinson, like you need to be thinking about the too deep when you're drafting as well. And you also need to look at the contracts that are going to be coming expired or spots that'll be expired, not 2022, but 2023. And this is kind of funny. One of the points that we're going to get to in this conversation today, and thank you for the comment, Mile High Mike, is the tweet here yesterday from Mike Kliss saying the Super Bowl is done. Broncos are in draft meetings. Top offseason needs quarterback, edge rusher, right tackle, linebacker. I have a tweet from May 26, 2021 saying, hey, Broncos really early before any football's played needs for the 2022 draft: quarterback, offensive tackle, edge rusher. Doesn't take a rocket science. If you know what the positions of value are and you know how the contracts line up, you know probably where you're going to be looking at in the first round if you have any sense of positional value and how the contract and the cap is set up.
For sure. All right, we got Tabitha coming in with some stars. Really appreciate that, Tabitha. And again, if you any of you guys have any questions, send these stars. Just let us, or Scott will find it.
Yep, absolutely. Rodney Garcia coming in. Rodney's been a big contributor here, pretty consistent here. Thank you so much, Rodney. Evening, guys. What is your guys' take on picking up Randy Gregory in free agency? I would like the move. Go Broncos. He scares me a bit because he's extremely prone to penalties. Heck, you could point to him and say, like, his penalties might have cost him that game against the 49ers because he had some dumb bleeping plays in that game. He's been suspended multiple times for drug usage. It's one of the reasons that he fell in the draft. I thought he was a top 10 pick coming out of Nebraska with his twitch and bend. I mean, really talented player, but could not fail a drug test entering the league, which is, come on, man. I mean, get some help, or I don't know. It's just, don't want to throw, glass houses or anything, but it's like, come on. The other thing with him is that I'm not sure if he is as good of a scheme fit. Obviously, if you can rush the passer, we'll figure out a role for you. But I don't know if he's as good of a scheme fit now that Dan Quinn is not coming over. I think you're looking for a little bit more of the lengthy, strong guys who can contain and play gap and a half versus the pin your ears back seven gap or single gap, 7 gaps, but single gapping pass rushing types. So I don't know. He's talented. Maybe I think he's more likely to get a bigger deal elsewhere for a scheme that fits him better.
I am interested, though, with this new defense coordinator coming in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just that he's worked under Fangio or Fangio schemes. I mean, he's worked under like a Wade Phillips, who does like those guys bending around the edge, coming in that one gap, shooting in that way. And so I'm just very interested to see what kind of scheme he really wants to go towards.
I do think it'll still probably be a heavy emphasis on what Vic Fangio has done, because my understanding is that McVay, we love you, Wade Phillips, but the single high cover one heavy scheme where you're sending 5 or 6 guys consistently, not going to hang. Can't do it. We're going to get killed with that. So McVay has become obsessed with the 2 high defense. That's why he wanted Staley. And to the extent where he said Raheem Morris, like, if you're going to be the defensive coordinator, here's the first 10 pages of Brandon Staley's defense. You're going to run this. I don't care if you've run cover 3, cover 1 in the past. If you're going to be the DC, these are going to be your key tenants. And we can kind of variate that because it went from more of a 4-2 box to a 5-1-5. But again, I think that's a key emphasis there. And I think that you had holdover there with Ejiro Evero for both of those regimes that I'm guessing it's going to be a different iteration, but still the main tenets of what Fangio has built here.
Yeah. All right, we got Andrew coming in here. I love this question, Andrew. Hey, Nick, Carl, Scott, and Broncos brethren, how do we really feel about this coaching staff? It's green with a low floor, but should be a higher ceiling than what we've had. I'd rather the boom or bust versus the mediocre middle of the road. #MHH for life. Yeah, I have my worries about this coaching staff.
Yep.
One, it's a lot of his friends, a lot of people that he feels very comfortable with, which understandable. You want to work with people that you are comfortable with, that you have a relationship with, that you don't have to build all that up. But at the same time, are they the best people for the job? You just let Mike Munchak, one of the best offensive line coaches, walk out the door. Was that the best decision? We'll see how that all pays off, I guess, moving down the road. But at the same time, I like how they've designed this. I like where they're bringing in some of these veteran coaches to kind of mentor a lot of these younger guys. So if you're going to bring in younger guys, bring in some mentors to help them along the way. And so that's really nice to see with Dom Capers. Bill Kolar is still going to have a role with the team, which is nice to see. So for the most part, and I like that there's a lot of unified thought in the fact of this is the kind of offense we want to run. So let's go get coaches that know how to run this well. So that part of it, I really, really like.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wait and see for me with the coaching staff. They are extremely young. You have a lot of guys in different roles. You have a lot of guys coming up from the college ranks that don't have much NFL experience and relationships in the league. So totally wait and see for me. hopefully it goes well. I do think it's interesting looking at a team that just lost the Super Bowl. Zach Taylor, when he was first brought on, everybody was making a lot about how young his staff was and how many issues they had early on with their youth and experience. And that coaching staff turned over pretty quickly and added experience every progressing year from when he was first hired. So I'm curious if you will see experience and turnovers beyond that. But with coaches, you don't really know until you know, right? Like Sean McVay was not the it coach his coaching cycle, and he ended up being the best. LaFleur was definitely not the it coach his cycle. He ended up being one of the best. The Green Bay LaFleur, excuse me. I'm not sure. I'm not ready to say Cincinnati's coach is great yet based on what I've seen. Definitely fine, but not great.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It's wait and see, I guess, for this one, because there's not tape to inform you either way. Let's just be optimistic and say it works out, but we won't know until we know. And honestly, it's not going to matter if they don't get the quarterback right. I mean, if you haven't figured that out by now, then we'll just keep saying it, I guess.
Yep. You look at the top 10 quarterbacks in football, most of the time, those are the people that they're saying, these are the top 10 coaches in football. It's kind of a chicken or egg thing. Which one is really playing the role of making this team great? I would probably lean more towards the quarterback than I would the coach.
The quarterback allows you to even showcase scheme stuff that you can do. But I digress. Travis Weber coming in saying, speaking of free agency, what do you guys think about Chooks Okorafor, the Pittsburgh tackle? I definitely remember that name because I had to say it a lot of times in that leading up to that draft. Man, that Western Michigan offensive line, they had two great tackles that year. They also had Taylor Moton, who went on to become one of the highest paid tackles in football for the Panthers this last year. Despite how bad their offensive line is. Hello, it takes 5 across the offensive line. You can't have trash there. Better than having one single great player. Chukwuma Okorafor, I'd be interested, no doubt. Personally, maybe this is me just looking for a more long-term option. I think he's just fine, and I think he's going to get paid to be more than fine. So I'm more interested in the short-term, cheaper stopgap guy where you are fine if the draft doesn't play out a certain way, where you don't draft a guy, kind of like how last year's did. Like the Broncos were gearing up to take Brady Christensen. He ends up going before them. Broncos are gearing up to take Spencer Brown. He goes before them. Well, luckily you already had Cam Fleming, or I guess you brought him in later, but you had a tackle there that you could feel confident with. So you want to make sure that your baseline is fine prior to the draft. And that's the kind of tackle that I'm looking for, unless an obvious scheme fit kind of guy comes in that they love. But I'm a little bit concerned because a lot of times teams don't let good tackles go in free agency, and you end up paying A+ money for B-level talent, and Juwan James is still a little too fresh for me. Peyton's not going to make that mistake, I don't think, but that one's just, that one was terrible, terrible move. But I like Okorafor. He's fine. He's okay.
I'm with you there. It's depending on the money. If it is kind of middle of the road money, then hey, by all means, go get that kind of guy. But if he's demanding pretty big money, which most times when tackles are hitting the market, like I said, they're getting pretty big money, even if they're not a great player, just because teams need them so much. If you've got 2 great tackles, you are in the upper echelon of the NFL right now. Very few teams can brag like that. And so even having 2 competent tackles is saying a lot. But all right, we got David coming in saying, what do you think about Skyler Thompson from KSU at quarterback? Think he could be good in the NFL?
Carl, that one's for you, because I'm going to be honest, I do not watch much Big 12 football, if I can help it. I still do. But Kansas State, Kansas, Texas Tech, haven't watched many of their games this year.
I've only watched a couple, honest, if I'm being honest here, of K-State. I was not a K-State fan, even though I went to school in that area. And I went to a lot of K-State games when I was there in college. But Thompson, the little I've seen, it's not something that jumps off the page. Like a late round flyer kind of guy. Sure, let's go for it. Just take a chance, see what the guy could be. But anything in the first 2 days of the draft, I would be very upset if he was one of the picks.
Yeah, we got Cody W coming in saying, what do you think about Wyatt Hubert at K-State? Multiple K-State questions.
Whoa.
He was drafted last year, right? He's not in this draft class. The Wyatt Hubert sticks out to me because he was the guy who had like horrific short arms. And I remember somebody on our staff liked him. And I was like, he has like 28-inch arm length at the edge rushing position. I don't know what to do with him. He's more likely to be undrafted than anything. I don't think he's done anything in the league. He was a rookie, true, but I think it was the arm length was like, whoa, what the heck is even your body type? Like, your hands go down to your belly button.
I remember we talked about him quite a bit because, like I said, we had somebody that liked him a lot. And his numbers, I mean, his stats at K-State were great, but he was, like I said, in such a lower tier when it became that arm length, that guys that have had those kind of arm lengths, there's not a single one of them that have worked out except for maybe like one guy. And so it's again where you're talking about the unicorn of situations, that somehow this guy becomes something that most others that have his physical tools don't.
Yep. And another good name here for the small school guys, Troy Anderson from Montana State. That's a great one. Also, I was thinking offensive side because Broncos need some offense, but Tariq Woolen, I think is his name, the 6'3" cornerback from UTSA. He is incredible size. I mean, he's really fun. He's going to have some work to do as far as recovering at the next level. I mean, it's just right. Let's have a little bit of physics talk, guys. Like the higher you are the higher your center of gravity is, the harder it is going to be for you to turn. That's why cornerbacks typically aren't Lenny Walls. There's a throwback for you guys. 6'5" cornerback for the Broncos back in the mid 2000s. Most of them are 5'10" to 6 foot. And those guys who are 6'1" plus with link that can play out inside outside are rare. So we'll see. Travis Tarbox coming in. Oh, there we go. Hope we bring back Josie Jewell. No doubt him and Baron Bryan would be a great duo. Josie Jewell is one that I hope we bring back, and I hope that's not me just being an Iowa biased guy. I try to be, I am Iowa biased when it's like the actual Hawkeyes playing, but then I try to put that in a box when it comes to the draft analysis kind of situation. I had to kind of, today on the Facebook group, you guys can follow us at Mile High Huddle, somebody was posting some Tyler Linderbaum stuff saying we should take him at 9. I'm like, this hurts me to say. Don't take Tyler Linderbaum at 9. Like, okay. But Josie Jewell, I'd love to bring him back. I'm curious to see what his market is like. He's been a good player, and I think you can get him back for a 1-year deal. But then again, Blake Martinez, who is a similar-ish player, got a massive deal from the Giants. Nick Kwiatkowski got a massive deal from the Raiders. So who knows what the market says. Would love to bring back Josie Jewell. Also, shout out to Josie Jewell. Yesterday, he is celebrating the birth of his second child. So congrats to Josie Jewell on fatherhood again. Continued fatherhood.
The thing working for the Broncos is he's coming off a season-ending injury.
Yeah.
So those other guys, they were at least still playing when they put out their numbers and got their contract and all that. I think he's one of those guys that'll be overlooked. Maybe that second or third wave of free agency, you can get him for a decent deal unless you sign him before that, which I think the Broncos will probably try to have a conversation with them and see, hey, can we get a maybe 2-3 year deal kind of done where most of the money's in the first 2 years, third year's mostly a throwaway year kind of thing. And like I said, just trying to get some depth at that position because it got hurt so bad this year. You don't want to lose everybody. I know a lot of people I've seen taking a linebacker at 9 because it is such a big hole right now on the Broncos, but I really think they're going to bring back at least 1, maybe 2 of those guys that are leaving in free agency.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Cliff's listed linebacker as one of the positions that the Broncos should be looking to target in the draft. But I would say that for linebacker, one of these things is not like the other. And if you are really sold on a guy, then okay, with the 9th overall pick, like if you absolutely love Devin Lloyd, you think that he can be what's the incredible linebacker that we both loved coming out of BYU, Fred Warner. If you think he can be a Fred Warner there at 9, that's worth the pick. But historically speaking, we have the data. First round picks at linebacker have a terrible hit rate, especially in the last 10 years. The only one who actually has really been an emphatic hit, according to PFF this last year, was Micah Parsons. And it's not because Micah Parsons, the coverage in space linebacker, it's Micah Parsons, the pass rusher on third down, who is like the best edge rusher in the class, arguably one of the best pass rushers in football this last season. So you have to be willing to make that gamble that you're going to get it right, when a lot of times teams just have a hard time evaluating the haves and the have-nots of the linebacker position. I think you're just as likely to get a stud day 2 over the last 10 years as you are round 1, which is not true for other positions.
Well, speaking of pass rushers, we got Rodney coming in saying, what about Chandler Jones from Arizona? One of the most consistent and underrated pass rushers in football the last 10 years.
I would be interested. I love Chandler Jones. That's one of the ones that when Bill Belichick let him get away, I think that's one that he regrets. Typically, you don't have that with Bill Belichick. Normally, it's the banana in the tailpipe kind of thing when the Patriots guy goes off to a different situation. Trading Chandler Jones was one that I bet you they might have won another Super Bowl if they had held on to him. Who knows? Butterfly effect, things change from there. Also, Rodney coming back in. If Chandler Jones is interested in coming here, I'd be interested too. I'm just curious. you're talking about a guy who's like third, fourth contract. Those guys typically do not go to teams that don't have a quarterback. And teams in the league right now probably don't view the Broncos as having a quarterback that gives them a chance to win the Super Bowl. So you're not going to get those Evan Mathis, Sean Phillips type of edge rushers at the end of their contracts there. Can you pull that one back up? Sorry, Scott. Just wanted to make that. Oh, man, I'm sorry. Don't cuss at me, Scott. That's a mean finger. I'm just kidding. He's not. Scott's eating right now. We'll get back to it. I want to get to this one here from Salvi Nation. You can have it pulled up when you're ready, Scott. Salvi Nation, don't recognize this name, but rocking the Bronco hats. I want to give you a shout out here. What's up, guys? Would you guys consider Carson Wentz for Denver quarterback? I asked because I heard it from another podcast, a possible trade for a 4th round pick and Drew Lock. I think you're probably keeping Drew Lock in this scenario. You're letting them battle Royale 2.0, which is just an extension of Bridgewater versus Lock last year. Yeah. The thing with Carson Wentz is I don't know if his contract is as fungible. Is that the word? I don't know if it's as easily manipulated because there's like 3 years after it, where Teddy reworked his deal to make it from 2 years to 1 year, and the Panthers kept a lot of that cash. I think there's like $20.5 million per year, like 3 years down the road that are not. It's not dead money. It's not signing bonus. It's like roster bonus, which would transfer over to whichever team is trading for him, which makes me pump the brakes with Carson Wentz. I like it in a sense that you're not burning massive capital as far as draft picks for him, but I'm not interested unless the Colts are eating a lot of that contract. And also, I don't know anything here, and I don't want to propagate rumors, but like I have questions as far as it was not a clean breakup with Philly, with Carson Wentz and the personality stuff there. Now he's in Indy with Frank Reich, who the guy is like handpicked him after 1 year after trading all that capital, and they're already looking to move on from him. Something stinks. Something stinks there. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully Broncos or any team trading him for him would get an understanding of what's going on. Oh,
right. Especially since his numbers weren't terrible. Like, I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. I mean, I think it was 27 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. So 4-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And I know there's some really bad play within there as well. And there's more to it than just those kind of numbers, but it wasn't like it was absolutely terrible to already be wanting to trade him. There's something more going on there. So, all right, Travis. What?
I said you'd have to think. It's just, it stinks. Yeah. Something stinks. Go ahead.
All right. We got Travis coming in. Thank you, Travis. Got the hat on. I believe it'll be an adjustment, but definitely much improved on offense for sure. They might catch up with the defense finally. One can only hope.
Who knows? I do expect to see the Broncos take a step back next year, defensively speaking. People really talk about all the money and the resources spent on the defense, but that front seven last year was pretty much held together by duct tape with the issues at edge rusher and off-ball linebacker. I mean, you just can't have that many injuries in succession typically and have a top 10 defense. The Broncos did, shockingly. But I mean, honestly, last year, Carl, not to poo-poo anybody's favorite players, but like outside of Draymond Jones, is anybody on that Broncos defensive front seven last season a plus player last season? I mean, you're hoping for Bradley Chubb, but like, I think Shelby Harris is an average league starter. He's good, but I think he's an average league starter. Mike Purcell's probably below average. You got hope for Browning, but he's not there yet. After that, it's no. And somebody asked, it was about Kenny Young earlier. That was one of the chats. Why not talking about Kenny Young? Peyton had an interview with Eric Dalala for Broncos Media where they talked about the linebacker position, and he named Alexander Johnson and Josie Jewell and did not name Kenny Young. That to me, maybe that's a mishap, but I think that that's not a mistake. I think that was even if it was Freudian slip, he did not list him, and I'm carrying some weight to that one.
All right, we got Lawrence coming in saying, how much money are the Broncos spending on teaching coaches out of college this year, and when's the last time that's ever been done? I would say some of these positions are unique in what the Broncos are bringing in and how they're bringing in these different guys. They are trying some new things. Not completely new. I'd say there's some other teams that have kind of taken on this. I think the 49ers, the way they have their coaching staff set up is pretty similar to what the Broncos are doing with just more experience than what the Broncos have. I'd say the Rams have some similar ideas behind what they're doing. You're seeing a lot of these young guys, and especially that kind of scheme and setup of what they're trying to build. They're realizing going the traditional way doesn't help get across their scheme as much as they would like to. So having like a passing game coordinator, having a running game coordinator, those kind of things makes a huge difference in how they can design their offense.
Yep, absolutely. And we got there's some Kenny Pickett hand discussion going on here. I don't know if we want to get into that. Oysterman, Devin White. Devin White graded really terribly for Pro Football Focus this last year. I would take him, no doubt, because he's a height, weight, speed freak and a force player on that end. And I'm glad the Raiders took Clellan Farrell at 4 instead of Devin White. But Devin White has some issues in processing and coverage. He's allowed to do a lot of what he does because he plays behind Vita Vea and because he plays next to Levante David. Devin White's still great, but he is, if you asked him to play like Luke Kuechly, you're going to have a bad time.
Yep. I remember the Devin draft.
Yeah.
And I was talking about him and just saying, we love him, but he better be going to a defense that knows how to use his talents.
Yep.
Like you said, if he's moving forward, great. If he's moving back, good luck.
Yeah. Don't ask him to process too much. And that's one of the reasons linebacker position is so hard. There's just not enough of reps in the college game where you're seeing these guys have to be flexed out into space against these tight ends, slot wide receivers, running backs, the caliber of the NFL game where quarterbacks can pick on them. That's just not that's something you don't see on tape at the college level very often. You try to extrapolate it based on the traits, but it's not like edge rusher where like the edge rusher, their twitch, their ability, their athleticism translates so much more and it's easier to measure and it's easier to see. And you have way more reps that are easy to see on tape as well. That's why it's much easier position to hit and one that you can lean on a lot of those traits to draft.
And I see Levante David, his name coming up a couple times. Second round
so
pick.
Good. Yep.
Pick taken after Brock Osweiler.
Yep.
That's all I remember because I remember thinking, John Elway, please take Levante David.
So good.
And he did not take him. So
I mean, almost all the best linebackers in football right now are day 2 picks. Darius Leonard, Fred Warner, Eric Kendricks. A lot of those guys, day 2 picks. You can find really good linebackers day 2 every year. Travis Weber, not meaning to change subjects. Well, you just did it. It's okay. But with the talks of McVay and Donald stepping away, what do you see Von doing? Calling it a career? No, Von's not calling it a career yet. Possible coming back to make money is doable. We talked about this morning on Broncos for Breakfast. I think there's definitely a possibility Von can come back to Denver, but domino number 1 is probably quarterback that he believes in coming here. I don't think Von's going to, obviously he loves Denver and he's a legacy here. Like has been Denver football, where in Los Angeles, he is one of the heads with Donald, Stafford, Kupp, McVay, all being higher profile players than him. Arguably even Jalen Ramsey. They're probably similar. But he is the dude in Denver. Maybe he'd want to come back for that. Carl, Scott and I kind of came to the same conclusion today, but there's a team that fits with Von Miller for a lot of reasons that scares me. And by God, I hope it doesn't happen, but I don't even want to say it, but I'm curious if you can get there as well.
Chargers.
God bless it. It's the Chargers. Yep. A lot of money. God, they have so much cash. They really need, I think Uchenna Nwosu is a free agent who played opposite Joey Bosa. And he knows the scheme. He knows Brandon Staley. He's worked under Brandon Staley. So it's interesting to me. I'd be very curious to see if that would happen. I hope it doesn't. God, that would make me upset. But who knows?
I feel like he wasn't quite as burned by the Broncos as like Chris Harris, where Chris Harris is like, I'm going to go where I'm going to make sure the Broncos see how much they're missing me kind of thing. I don't know. Well, I mean, if they offer him enough money, it's going to be hard to pass on that. And like you said, they've got Justin Herbert. They've got a coach that he knows. Man, that would be tough to see. I would be very frustrated to see him playing against Broncos twice a year. But I think there is a chance he does come back to the Broncos if they go get Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and prove, hey, we've got a quarterback. I think they can convince him, hey, this is an opportunity for another ring. Plus, you get to build on your Bronco legend. And I think he'd be very enticed by that because he is very much a people pleaser with everything he does. And that would be like the ultimate people pleaser of the fans in Denver.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's keep getting into this here. Miguel, first, if this new coaching thing works, do you guys think they'll change the NFL and say, yep, that happened in Denver? Do you mean like all these young coaches coming to Denver from the college ranks? I mean, Denver's very young, but I don't know if they're doing anything so innovative and different that the league would like have to take pause and be like, whoa, we need to copy them. They're pulling up some guys from the college scheme all at once, or a college game all at once, but I don't think it's totally groundbreaking.
Yeah, I think the NFL has learned that they got to bring in some college guys just because, I mean, you're copying what the college game is doing. Usually that's kind of the way the NFL goes. This is what they're doing this is what they're doing in college, the spread system. We got to bring in some guys that know how to run that.
Mm-hmm.
And teams have been doing that here for a while. Not maybe to quite the level the Broncos are this year. And I do think that could be a problem, honestly. I'm very nervous about that. But we'll see. And if it isn't, then maybe they're going to go, man, let's go. Let's get as many of these college coaches as we can and just see what happens. Maybe that's what happens. But I think for the most part, it's going to pretty much stay the norm.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. We got Twitch coming in here saying, how's it going, you guys? Work has been busy. Work has been a little stressful, and the weather this weekend doesn't look so good. But other than that, I'm doing pretty well. It has been nice. I should just be appreciative of that. January and February so far have been great out here in Seattle. But Carl, you doing okay? Checking in?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
This is the way I look. No, this is the way I look. Okay.
Yeah, no,
okay.
Life's pretty good for me. It's just trying to find my new norm. That's been a struggle so far, but we'll get there.
Oh yeah, buddy. Jeff Mitchell, here we go. Jeff, thank you for your stars earlier, and thank you for coming back around with a comment here. Let's focus on our lines this year and a cornerback. Run with Locke, see how he does under the new coaches. Doesn't work out, draft a quarterback of the future in 2023 when the draft is quarterback stronger. The thing about that is no team, Broncos are not going to go into next year with just Locke and a insert Jeff Driscoll laughable level backup quarterback. It's going to be, if Locke is at all in your plans as a possible starter for the Broncos next year in 2022, it's similar to this year where you bring in a Teddy Bridgewater-esque level quarterback. Now, I'm not saying bring back Teddy, but a Tyrod Taylor and Andy Dalton, everyone roll their eyes, rightfully so, but they're not going to go into this year with just Locke, and they're not going to be able to sell that to the locker room, right? Like, these guys want to win, and Locke so far has not proven that he could win with them. So I know that long term we want to be thinking about the data. Oh my gosh. Oh man, Chad. You just Venmo me next time. No, I'm just kidding. Chad, thank you for the two of these who busted their rears. I'm gonna keep it PG in here, Chad. Goodness. For almost 5 years. Wow, time flies. It's been more than 5 years, hasn't it? Like, we started, it was the 2017 draft. I guess it has been 5. Because it was the Bulls draft, and everybody telling me that the Broncos should trade up for Christian McCaffrey, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, the top 5 for a running back? What year is it? God, I can't was mind.
Almost every podcast was that conversation. It seemed like, or we'd have those questions coming into us, and or people asking about that all the time. Oh my goodness, yeah. I trade 3 first-round picks to go get Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, he's not a quarterback, guys. But
yep. But all right, thank you so much, Chad.
Yeah, we love you. Thank you, Chad. Really do appreciate that, and it's been fun to ride with you, buddy. Yeah. It really has, and you've been a great boss all the way, and been very supportive of us. So we appreciate that. And Lawrence coming in here saying, "Oh, nice, Chad, well deserved. Chad off the top rope, yes, very, very much so." And so yes, I think year 6 is going to be the best one yet. And very excited to go into this offseason for so many reasons. When we're talking about building the Broncos, talk about an offseason where we're building the entire team, front office, everything we've got the GM, but owner's going to be picked this offseason. That's exciting. Obviously, quarterback, we might see some movement there, hopefully. And I'm very, very excited to see what the Broncos do. I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic because I don't want to get too over the top and think, of course we're going to go get Aaron Rodgers and everything's going to be golden in the Golden Mountains. But it's hard not to imagine that.
I'm scared, and I'm also scared because the AFC is just absolutely stacked. I was listening to a few shows about some people I really respect, and they're like, "Oh man, the Bengals will be back." Will they? I mean, they only had to go through one elite quarterback this year to get to the Super Bowl and lost. They probably arrived a year early, but now in the future, you're going to have to go through probably 2, if not 3 of Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and for the Broncos, throw in Joe Burrow too. So man, the AFC is just insane. And if Kyler Murray gets traded to the AFC too, I mean, I don't even know. Can we petition the president or somebody to move the Broncos to the NFC? We can do it, people. God. We got Kyle Thiel saying, what do you guys think about Troy Anderson out of Montana State? An absolute football dude. He's almost like the Taysom Hill of the draft class this year, because I think he's like the Montana State's all-time leading rushing yards leader, as well as like defensive player of the year for his conference as well. He's moved around a lot, a very good athlete. So I'd be interested in him probably round 3. I want to see how he tests as well. But round 3 is about where he is. Linebacker is such a processing-based position. You can be limited in the tools. Look at Josie Jewell and still be competent. You're probably not going to be elite if you don't have those traits plus the processing. He's got the traits. He's still pretty raw at the linebacker position. So, I mean, day 3, you got round 3, you got a couple extra round 3 picks. It makes sense around there for me.
I'm with you there.
Yeah. And I also wanted to get to this one again because he got to us earlier. Jeff, if you're going to support us, and we'll get you up here. Problem is, talking about quarterbacks here, what real choices do we have at quarterback outside of trying for A-Rod or Wilson? Won't be really any further ahead of any of these choices, i.e. Taylor or Bridgewater. Probably not. What you're hoping for is competency at the quarterback position to the extent that you can run your offense and give yourself options. The other thing is, this year we had 50 quarterbacks in the NFL have at least 100 dropbacks, with the game getting more quarterback run-centric, again, kind of revolving back there, just based on box numbers, and another game thrown in there. More backup quarterbacks are probably going to play than ever before, so your backup quarterback is going to be valuable. And I saw there was some Brock Osweiler discourse in here earlier. Brock, just screw him for chasing the money. I guess maybe not, because we got a 3rd-round comp pick for him that maybe ended up being Justin Simmons. So actually, God bless you for chasing the money there,
Thank
Brock
you.
Osweiler. Broncos don't win that Super Bowl this year without Brock Osweiler. So you want to at least be competent in that room and keep adding logs to the fire at that quarterback room. Also, I think that competition and the competitive nature is the number one factor that I want in my quarterback. And if Drew Lock can't beat Taylor, Bridgewater, or anybody, then I've learned about him enough to make a decision going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd be willing to throw a little bit more money in free agency if you don't get one of those guys, because I'm not really trading for anybody else unless it's a late round pick kind of thing. Maybe a Winston, maybe a Mariota, where you're trying to compete for those guys. I think they could be decent fits with what the Broncos want to do.
They'd have to be very short term.
Well, yes, I agree. But I think most teams that they go to are going to probably be pretty short term.
Yeah, you'd hope so. We're all coming in here with the $4.99 super. If we keep Lock 9, what do you think? What would you do with it, including trade it? So you're saying if you keep pick 9, I think is what he means.
Yep.
If you decide to trade it, what would you? Oh, there we go. I meant pick, not Lock. I want for quarterback for one more year. He's got to earn it. Lock. Here's a fun factoid for you, Carl. 2015 draft to 2020 draft. There were, I think, 12 or 14 quarterbacks drafted. Day 2 quarterbacks. Where does Lock rank in terms of starts accumulated?
Well, I know the answer. So it's number 2.
Number 2.
Jacoby Brissett.
Number 2. If you're a day 2 quarterback, everything is earned, not given. So if you want to be starting, go be better. Sorry, that's rough. It's like you're a 3-star quarterback coming into Ohio State. You're a 3-star. You got to prove that you can play before you see the field. Yep. But coming in here saying, what would you do with the 9th pick if you decide to trade it? Who do you go for with your first pick? MHH is the best. You're the best. We appreciate you. Who do you go for? It depends on where you're trading back to. I think that if you could trade back to, say, 20 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that's looking to come up, then you're looking at a bunch of edge rushers there. Maybe you're starting to open the conversation about a Jordan Davis there. There's a lot of good cornerbacks there, and that's also the next tier of tackles as well. So draft is very open at that point when you get back there. Personally, I think that's probably where you're looking at an edge rusher, given the bodies that are going to be available there. But have to see what the board is like.
Yeah, I'm definitely working to trade back because I'm wanting to build 2023 capital, because at that point you don't have your quarterback if you haven't traded pick 9. And I don't believe in Lock, and I'm not really seeing any quarterback at 9 that I want. Maybe when you're trading back to pick 20, 25 or whatever, maybe you're looking at a Sam Howell at that point or something like
Desmond
that.
Ridder.
Yeah, Desmond Ridder. And you're going, let's just try it, see what happens. And we still feel good that we can go into 2023 and take a guy. But you're right. There's going to be some really good edge rushers that I would be looking at. Maybe a cornerback that falls into that area. And maybe that is where, again, that linebacker, off-ball linebacker, that maybe one of Nakobe Dean or Devin Lloyd happens to fall to that kind of area.
Yep. And we got Casey coming in with purple $50 over on YouTube. Casey, thanks so much, man. It's been a bit. It's good to see you. And I agree with your sentiment here 100%. I hate seeing people say on networks that they kicked Von the hell out of Denver. Those are direct quotes for you podcast listeners there. I'm not just putting things in there. It was a mutual agreement on all parties to send him to a contender, and it worked out great for him. Denver got some picks. Von got a ring, and now he's a free agent. Win, 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 win. I mean, obviously, the picks that the Broncos got are only as good as the players they end up getting because of it. But because of that trade, the Broncos now have a seat at the table this offseason to go get a quarterback. And you know what? If they can't get a quarterback this year, if they hit those picks, A, you have more bites of the apple now. But also, because of those picks, you can maybe afford trading. Let's say you don't get the quarterback this offseason. Well, 2023, you already drafted a interior defensive lineman a year before you needed it. So now you're a little bit better, or feel a little bit better about trading those 2023 and 2024 picks because you already made the investment the year prior. So gives yourself flexibility. Yep. I think it's a win-win-win. Anybody who's saying that is just kind of pushing their own narrative on it more than anything and doesn't really know the full scenario. But hey, that's why you're coming to Mile High Huddle to get your Broncos scoop rather than ESPN or NFL Network, because those guys, I mean, hats off to them. They do a good job because they have to cover so much. Like watching those shows, like if I had to go on and talk about golf for 10 minutes, I'd make a complete bleep out of myself, you know? Yeah. But that's why you come here, because you want the, inch wide, mile deep analysis of the Denver Broncos.
Right. And this is where we have to always look at, sometimes, even if those picks don't work out, I think the process was right that the Broncos went through. So just breaking this down into like a play design, sometimes you call the perfect play, but it actually doesn't work out just because it didn't get executed right. Doesn't mean that the play call was bad. Doesn't mean that things didn't get messed up or things were messed up beforehand. It just means something else broke down. And so I believe the Broncos made a great process move to set themselves up for the future, to be able to have, like you said, lots of options of what they can do. Now, what they do with that, if it does actually work out or not work out, that's still up in the air. But I still love the process. And yeah, for Von, it worked out great. And I'm happy for him. I was very excited to see his emotions on the field and, just being almost like silent there at the end because he just was speechless of everything that had happened. And maybe this is, again, where now he comes back to the Broncos, gets that third ring with the Broncos, and just goes down in history as one of the greatest defenders to ever do it. And I already got Dennis Woods coming in here with a super chat saying, how soon do you see a decision on Aaron Rodgers being made?
I think that it'll be happening sometime in March, is my understanding. But hopefully we'll have some idea before that. Who knows? Packers are in such a weird cap situation that I don't even know what's going to happen. I am not getting on that ride because I don't want to get hurt again, like last year. I'm guarding my heart. But who knows? It's not going to be something where it's throughout the entire summer and post-draft. Like, we should have resolution by the draft. And thank God for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I still wonder if there wasn't that rumor that he could be leaving Green Bay, would that have changed what the Broncos did in the draft?
No. You never know.
I know. Another universe, another alternate universe out there.
It sounds like they absolutely loved Trey Lance. And if Mac Jones was the 49ers pick there at 3, Broncos might have been aggressive to go up. However, then maybe the Falcons take Trey Lance at 4, who was another team that reportedly liked him. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the epilepsy was enough of a concern for the Broncos, allegedly, for Justin Fields. So we'll see. And they didn't like Mac Jones so much there, and we'll see. We got Phil coming in here saying, coming in late. Grandson had a basketball game. Phil, if you'd have... What you do is you get your phone out and watch us during the basketball game. No, I'm just kidding. The grandson's basketball game is definitely first. Thank you for even joining us at all and saying hello. And thank you for sending us some stars. We appreciate you. Yep. Hashtag MHH there. Last thing I wanted to get to here before we get on out of here, because it is coming up at 7:00. And thank you everybody for joining us today and having a lot of fun with it. I always love these, love this show. So with Cliff listed quarterback number 1, no duh. Edge rusher. He should have listed edge rusher twice, honestly. Like we talked about that earlier. Right tackle makes a lot of sense. Didn't get into the names. We'll have all off season to get into the draft content with those guys. And linebacker, talked about linebacker. Is there anybody in these positions that should be a priority for the Broncos in the draft that you think were neglected?
Any other positions? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like ones that you're like, oh, maybe, he mentioned linebacker, but also I think that there's some validity to position X or position Y.
Yeah, I still think interior defensive line is a huge need. Like I said, Draymond Jones, great player. I think his best days are still ahead of him, which is exciting because he's already a great player.
Yeah.
But beyond him, there just wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah.
Shelby Harris, I think he took a step back. Yep. I thought he had a better year 2 years ago, I guess it would be at this point. Yep. And we'll see if he bounces back or not. Hopefully he does because he's still under contract for another couple of years. And I think it's still a team-friendly deal that it's still worth keeping him around here for a while. Mm-hmm. But you look at the rest of the guys, they just really did not live up to the hype at all. Mm-hmm. And I have some hope for some of the younger guys still to be able to do something, but you're still needing at least, I'd say, 2 more good bodies to make that interior defensive line something that makes teams have to take notice.
Yeah, definitely put up or shut up time for McTelvin Najim. He looked good in pass rushing situations. I just wonder if they can't trust him at all in rundowns, and that Draymond Jones is so much emphatically better than him and those rundowns that you're not seeing Najim. And if there was an injury on the interior defensive line, you might have seen it. That nose tackle spot, I mean, God bless Mike Purcell. He seems like a great guy, but he's really a jag, and you can probably save some money on that contract as well. The one that sticks out to me is defensive back. You're losing 3 of your top 6 guys in this upcoming draft class. And while I'm excited about the prospects, not draft prospects, but like these guys, their future of Michael Ojemudia and Caden Stearns, they by no means should keep you from looking to add to the room. And you're talking about a team, the Rams played the 3rd highest rate of 6+ defensive backs of any team in the NFL last year. There's a lot of versatility that you demanded here. And now you have, and that doesn't even get to the point that Ronald Darby has had 1 season his entire career where he's played a full season and is a contract that is very easy to move on from after 2022. So if suffers a down season coming up on that age 30 mark where that's scary for cornerbacks or injured, you might want to move on. So that's one that sticks out to me, and how much dime looks, et cetera, that you want. Maybe you want to bring in another safety too. So I think defensive back in general, I won't say just cornerback or safety, because I think you need somebody who can wear multiple hats. I would love a safety that can come down and also play the slot, somebody that can do a lot of that stuff. Rams have used those guys like crazy, but the defensive back has to be up there in the AFC West. You have to list it.
How quickly are you running to the podium if you do have pick 9 for Kyle Hamilton?
Oh God, I'm teleporting. It's gonna, oh my God, it's gonna be the thing where whoever announces it like turns around because I'm right behind him. Scary dude. I saw somebody in here earlier say Kyle Hamilton's overrated, a little stiff and whatnot. He's not the most incredible athlete of all time at the safety position. The thing that makes him insane is that how many hats he can wear. Again, I like to say that for the different roles. He can play slot, he can play box, he can play 2 high, he can play single high. It's also the processing that he has and the size. I mean, the length that he has. I know that I talked about it this morning with Scott, but the no-look pass play that everybody's talking about with Matt Stafford, where poor Von Bell, he didn't have a chance in the world. Coming down on that pre-snap 2 safety high look, Von Bell walks down as the robber, and he's kind of playing that de facto backside crosser defender, and he gets totally bought by Matt Stafford holding him, looking at the tight end, and then throwing it to Cooper Kupp on the slant. Kyle Hamilton, because of his size, I mean, he might take that window away. Yeah. You don't have, and then you have Simmons, who's a similar body type as well. I mean, the length and the that you'd have on that second level to come down with those guys is insane. Also, he's incredible at coming downhill and being a plus player in the short pass game and the run defense game. So you can live with a wider box when you have Justin Simmons and Kyle Hamilton, because those guys are coming down and you're not getting those big plays. So yes, I'm sprinting to the podium. I might even be crazy enough to list him as my number 1 player in this class when it's all said and done. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Right. I love him.
Right. I think it's going to be interesting. Let's say by chance the Broncos were able to take him, and people would be like, what, safety? Of all the positions we're taking safety? He's that good a player.
Yep.
You just don't want to pass on that kind of talent.
Yep, absolutely. defensive back's a big one. You need bodies. I love Daxton Hill too. Jalen Petrie, I'm not as sure about, but we'll see. We're going to get on it here. I saw Clayton said he had some questions in here and want to get to him here. Feeling a little spooky with the version of which here. Well, which positions are we the strongest and which is our weakest? I was watching Drunk History yesterday, and we were watching the iteration of the Salem witch trial. So feeling a little spooky over here with the witch comments.
There you go.
Where are the Broncos the strongest and the weakest? On paper, I'd say the Broncos are probably the strongest at the wide receiver position.
Yep.
That's the one that sticks out to me. Where they're the weakest, right now on paper, they're the weakest at linebacker. That is something, though, I think you can attack pretty easily with free agency. After that, though, I mean, who's your starting right tackle? I don't know. And I'm putting quarterback in a box right now because, like, you have the known quantity of Drew Lock. Drew Lock is a top 40 quarterback in the NFL right now. That's fine. So you're not totally weak there. It's not like you're going in there with Brett Rippon as your quarterback. So I will leave Von in a box for that one. But those are the positions that stick out to me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Wide receiver is the easy choice. I mean, you got three guys that on some teams would be number one wide receivers.
Yeah.
And if you get them a quarterback, they're going to shine big time.
Yep.
I might even not because I think that they're strong right now, but interior offensive line, I think is actually a decent plus because they've got depth and they've got a lot of guys who are actually trending in the right direction of turning towards good, especially after getting Glasgow back. I really like what they did of getting his deal done. And just because he's depth at a lot of positions. That's the great thing. And is Hamilton like a Cam Chancellor type?
He's much better in space than Cam Chancellor. The NFL, especially the Broncos, people think about the free safety and the strong safety as like this dichotomized position a lot because of the cover 3 Legion of Boom team, where you had Earl Thomas, who's 5'10", 190, being crazy free range in the back end, and Cam Chancellor's like 6'4". Now, that's not really what the Broncos are doing, not what many teams are doing right now. You have safeties. The two safeties a lot of times are asked to do similar things, and you want to show them. The reason we're so emphasizing that too high pre-snap look with the safety is that it just gives that quarterback one more thing to process after the snap, and especially if they're backs to the line because they're running a play action, then they turn back. Oh my God, there's a safety. Which safety drop down? Which coverage is the end? I mean, is he coming? Is he going? Is it cover 4? I mean, just so much harder to do that. And you kind of almost, what's the word? Negligating? That's the wrong word. Taking away the pre-snap that a lot of these Tom Brady's, Peyton Manning's have made a living on. You're making them process post-snap where the pass rush is coming rather than the play clock counting down. So it's tough.
Negating.
There you go. Not negating. Are you sure? That's like me making up words on, I don't play it, but my wife plays it, and I just like throw out made up words on Wordle all the time. Oh, did you try slurred? No, not a word. All right, guys, we probably got to get on out of here. I am curious, Jeremy Sean's comment here. You talk about the interior offensive line. I would have agreed with you. The change to the wide zone scheme makes me question the transition just a little bit. I got to see it. I don't know if Cushenberry / Moody are good fits at all for that scheme. So we'll see. We love you guys. You're great. Negate. God, no, I like nelegating. Let's keep at it. We're going to nelegate the end of this podcast. So it's time to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Also, shout out to Jan Cruz saying she wanted Wilson over Rodgers. I would like Wilson over Rodgers too. I don't know if it's happening, but we'll see. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. I always come in here saying, "Oh, let's get out of here right at 7:00. Never happens because chat's lit and we love you guys. So you guys can follow Carl and I on Twitter. Carl is at Carl Dumler, MHH, and I'm at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also, make sure you're following us on Twitter at BTB Football Pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you guys are on Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review and a comment, or I'd rather have the 5-star review, but if you think we're only a 4-star team, then be honest with it. Actually, if you do that, find a different Broncos podcast. No, I'm just kidding. We're all team players here. But make sure that you go there and leave us a comment. And if we didn't get to a comment of yours, if you have a question, leave the question in the 5-star review, and we'll get to that. We'll essentially treat that like a super chat at some point down the line and get to it. And make sure, guys, we're going to be live on Scott's channel tomorrow at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Make sure you're following us on there. And YouTube folks, please subscribe, like, and share. As always, what's the rest of your night looking like, Carl? And also, thanks again to Casey Nickel for the big super and Boss Man Chad. Appreciate you, Chad, for the big one.
Yes, thank you both. That was huge, and I love seeing the purple and the red. Always brightens my day to see it. But rest of my day, I'm going to go for a run here, get in a couple miles, trying to get back in the running game. And all my kids want to go do a Spartan race this summer.
Oh my
and
God.
I'd hate to be the least in shape person in my family when we go do that race and have my kids leave me in the dust. So I guess Dad has to get back in shape now.
You got to get out here and climb some mountains with me.
Oh man, I see your pictures. And I'm like, man, I lived there for a year and a half, and all the hikes that we got to do, I think about those all the time. I still have pictures of them.
Yeah.
So yes, I need to get back out there and do quite a few hikes with you.
I come out here and I'll kick your ass. It'll be great. We'll wake up at 3 a.m. to drive 3 hours to go walk for multiple hours. So thank you guys so much. We love you. You guys are great. Great content as always. Great conversation as always. I can't say content because that's us. You guys get to decide that. But we love you. We'll see you on Scott's channel tomorrow. Yeah, Scott's given the content was fine. I think I teased the Falcons maybe once too much for him. But we'll see you guys tomorrow on Scott's channel. Make sure you're tuning in tomorrow night for the Huddle Up guys. You're great. Love you. Choose kindness. Choose compassion. Go Broncos.
You've been listening to Building the Broncos. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.